There we go. Good morning, Duff. Good morning, Lori. Welcome for Thankful Thursday. Here is the mic.
Good morning, good morning. Hi, good morning, Lori Love. And Lynn. Lynn Love, Lori Love. Everybody's in L. Lynn, Lori, and Sharon's not here with us this morning, so we'll just share it together. Today is lesson 95, and that's one of the most famous lessons of all. What does it say? It says, I am one self united with my creator. And as usual, I like to look at what Ken Wapnick has to say about every lesson because for whatever reason, he takes me a lot deeper, showing me things that I don't see by just reading the lesson. Uh, he has that kind of a mind. Uh, no accident that he's a teacher of A Course in Miracles. It's like he's the perfect teacher of the Course in Miracles. So today is no different than any other day. Why is today different than any other day? Well, because Ken Wapnick looks at the lesson, I am one self united with my creator, lesson 95, and doesn't talk about that we are one self united with our creator. He talks about, as he says here, and I put it up here in the chat so everybody can see, and I already put it in the room just a little earlier. Jesus thus helps us understand that doing the workbook imperfectly is an excellent classroom for learning to undo our guilt. Well, we'll look at that in a second. Indeed, the implication is that by doing the workbook imperfectly and then forgiving ourselves, we're actually doing the workbook perfectly and being perfect students. What? Where does he get from I am one self united with my creator? Well, he's saying that we're always the Christ, and yet the ego is trying to always do everything in this world perfectly, which is completely impossible, and then judging itself for not doing it well because others are way ahead of me, others do it perfectly, there's always others doing something that I'm not doing. So he said, no. Do it the way that you do it, and then recognize that you did it perfectly because that's what you do in a world where you think that you're a body. Bodies don't do anything perfectly. Bodies do what bodies do, and he always kind of laughs at the people who try to make the workbook or the course some kind of a ritual, some kind of a sacred. Oh, I did it so perfectly. No, that's the ego talking. The ego loves to do things perfectly. No, you do it the way you do it. Just don't judge yourself. You'll notice that's the exact same idea that he has. Do you know how you go from your wrong mind to your right mind? Well, whatever you're doing, don't judge it. And that shifts you into your right mind. So the ego is just, oh, I did that so poorly. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to practice and practice. What are you doing? You're in a world of make believe, trying to make believe that the world is real. You got to laugh. Over to you, Lori.
That's interesting that you said he didn't refer to the title, I am one self united with my creator, and started talking about all these other things because as I was skimming through it, I kind of had the same feeling, but I didn't put it in the words that you did. It was like, wait a minute, what about our limitlessness? What about like where it says later on, I am one self united with my creator in every aspect of creation, limitless in power and in peace. And I noticed that he wasn't talking about what does that mean that we are limitless in power and in peace. What is that about? And you nailed it, Dove. You said he talks about the egos in us that are not doing the workbook perfectly, and we're trying so hard to do it right. And I can relate that also to any metaphysical path, any spiritual path where it says, pray, meditate, do all this, or law of attraction that says align yourself with love, align yourself with abundance. And what happens is that the ego gets in there and starts trying to do it perfectly, and it can't. And then we end up giving up and starting over again with something new. And in chapter 17, he talks about that with relationships. He says, that if you give your relationship to the Holy Spirit, the only difficult part will be the first part, and all hell is going to break loose because you have changed your goal, you've changed your purpose. And it says you'll hit this point where you say, okay, throw this relationship out and start over with a new one. And one of my friends is very fond of saying, you don't have to do that. You can just grab anyone off the street and have a relationship with them, and you can wake up through that. Don't worry about who you're with. Just grab anyone. And it's true, because we do fall into this thing of, I have to be perfect spiritually. And as he notes in here, we will know ourselves as the one self united with our Creator when the blocks to the awareness have been removed. And I'm going through an interesting thing right now where I've reconnected with Joe Dispenza's work, which I had put down for a long time, feeling like, that's just trying to make things happen in the world. That's just trying to be more healthy with the body. It's just trying to be more abundant with money. And my only goal is to be this one self united with my Creator and not to want anything in the world. Well, I started realizing that doing that, and it is true, it's still, there is only one thing we want because it's the only thing we are. And in this world, there are needs and there are things we want to do. And I started feeling like I know who I am, but I was feeling like, this body is getting old. I don't really have a purpose here in life except to shine my light, which I try to do every single day. It's like, I know who I am and I want to radiate that light so that others see it, and then I see it in them and they see it in me. And what other purpose is there? But what was getting in there subtly was this thing of, I don't need anything in this world. I don't need a relationship anymore. I don't need to be healthy anymore. I don't need money anymore. And I didn't realize it, but that was a subtle ego way of coming in and making me depressed, making me feel lack. And those were the beliefs in lack. And so what happened was, as I was grieving this last relationship and looking at all of the feelings and issues that were coming up that were a blessing, I'm glad this person broke up with me so that I could see all this and see that I was believing in lack and believing in limitation and believing in loss again and again and again, and saying, okay, well, these thoughts have come back to me my whole life in terms of a kind of life that I would like to live and feel free and expansive and have enough money and have a wonderful relationship. And I always would say, no, no, no. I know that those are not going to make me happy. And I know that the relationship is not going to make me happy. I've been in enough of them to know that. Money, I have plenty of money. I would like a little more cash flow just to make it a little easier, but I know that that doesn't make me happy. So the ego would take those thoughts and say, well, then you shouldn't have them at all. And that's what I was noticing, that it got in there. And the ego does. The ego will find any side door, back door, crack in a window to get in there and make you feel bad. So as the body seems to be breaking down, and this thought of, oh, here it goes, I'm never going to be healthy again because I am aging and my body doesn't feel good. And when I pick up my grandchildren, I can't pick up the 5-year-old. She's 45 pounds or something like that. I can pick her up, but then my upper back and shoulders and neck are going to feel it the next day. It's going to be all kinked up. And that kept happening. And I pick up the 2-year-olds, they're 26 pounds, and I'm picking them up all day long. And then my left hip and left shoulder are like, ah, kind of screaming, not screaming, but just irritating and pain, and thinking, oh, well, I guess it's just the way it is. But then reconnecting with Joe's work, it's like, you know what? No, no, I am not doing these things and thinking that they're going to make me happy or anything like that. I know who I am as the self, as the Christ. But then as I started getting more into Joe's meditations and stuff, I could see the ego starting to take over. And there I'm trying to do Joe's work really, really well. I'm trying to meditate and make sure that I align myself with this. And so the ego snuck in there again. But in the past, what I would have done at this point is I would have thrown it all out the window and said, I'm giving up. It doesn't work. I can't do it. It never happens. I make a little bit of progress. I'm a little bit healthier. I have a little more money. I have a better relationship, but it's not that great, but it's a little better than the last one. And I'd throw the whole thing out the window and say, I don't need anything, which is just another way the ego gets in there. And so it's been fascinating to watch this and to say, thank you, God. I know that I am one self united with my creator. And this keeps coming back. So it's like, go ahead, go for it, do it, meditate, align yourself with it. Because you know what? Aligning myself with expansion, abundance, health, love, relationships, connections, beautiful connections makes me feel good. And this morning, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this, and I don't care if it never happens, if my skin stays all wrinkly and my joints stay all creaky and a little bit painful or whatever. I don't care. I want to keep doing this no matter what, because it makes me feel good, and that love lines me up with who I really am. And it's not about the outcome. So I'm not doing the old pattern of throwing it all out the window. So just like with this last relationship breakup, I couldn't even go to the place I used to always go, which was, if only you would be doing your work, we would be fine. You're not doing your work. It's like projection, kept focusing on myself. What am I not doing? How am I not aligned with who I am? And see only the Christ in him. And it's been a very different experience. And so anyway, it's changing. Things are changing. They're evening out, and being able to stay with truth and love rather than get hooked into the ego stuff is happening more and more. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Dove.
Wow, 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 wow. I mean, that was terrific. I think you have a book to write. That's a wonderful message, and you want to get that message out. Probably you need a book. Kind of talks same as the title of my book. Title of my book is The Open Mind, Loving Yourself as Yourself, not the one that you made up, or I'm going to try and do this better. I'm going to improve myself. I'm going to decorate myself. I'm going to make myself look much better. Kind of reminds me of something I heard Ken Wapnick speak about. That it's the first time, I've been listening to Ken since 1980. So you're talking about 44 years. I've never heard him say, the course for Jesus is telling you, don't try and change your station in life. What? I mean, the ego's whole thing is, I was born on the wrong side of the tracks and I worked myself up. I'm so successful now. No, he said, because wherever you're born, whatever your station in life, that's where your lessons are. That there's no accident that somebody was born in South Africa or Australia or Alaska. That's where their lessons are. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go to Saint Tropez or Monte Carlo. I'm gonna live the life of the rich and famous. No, your lessons are where you were born, basically. And what you're saying is really the exact same thing. You're saying, I don't care if the wrinkles are there. That's right. That's where your lessons are. he doesn't love me for my smooth skin. No, he loves me because I am who I am. So the open mind says, love yourself the way you are. And the way you are is how God created you. Oh no, I gotta make it better. I gotta do better. I gotta look better, and all of that is, of course, imposed insanity. Uh, it kind of reminds me of one of the sections of the course that I always keep in mind. Uh, there's only one place in the entire course that says this course will be believed entirely or not at all. So it's either 100% acceptance or it's zero. There's no 99%. Oh, I think most of the course is great, but I still want to do better in life. I want to succeed. I want to, I want to make. I want to profit. I want to is always the ego. So I'm going to put that right up in the chat so that people can. I'll also put it in the room so people can see. We have Grismer in the room, and well, Delia's always there. Wow. So chapter 22, section 2, paragraph 7 is the only place in the course where he says it. This course will be believed entirely. That's 100% or zero, not at all. There's no Mr. in between. There's no, well, I'm almost there, oh, no, you're not almost there. That's the ego pretending, doing its usual shenanigans. For it's either wholly true or wholly false and cannot be but partially believed. And you will either escape from misery entirely or not at all. The reason will tell you that there is no middle ground where you can pause uncertainly, waiting to choose between the joy of heaven and the misery of hell. Until you choose heaven, you are in hell and misery. So, yeah, it's an all or none. It's either all together or none at all. This is either one or zero. It's either one or zero. Notice that's how computers work, by the way. Only on computer language only looks at ones and zeros, interprets ones and zeros. But you don't need the zero if you are one with all, if you are including all as your one self. So I was listening to you, and the reason for having boyfriends or anyone in your life is to learn the lessons that we came here for. Because the world is not the world that I thought it was when I was born. And I said, "Oh my God, it's such a great world. I'm going to be a success." No, the world is a classroom. I mean, he tells you that several times in the course, and you're here to learn lessons, and all things are lessons God would have me learn. So I heard you say a couple of weeks ago that your last boyfriend was your best teacher, because he did something that you weren't really used to, because usually it's the other way around, and this time I don't know why he did it. And so I mean, those are the lessons we come here to learn. So everybody in our life is our teacher, and everyone in our life is really someone that I chose to actually be in. As he says in the teacher's manual, there's all kinds of relationships, but there's a short term. I meet someone in an elevator. There's a middle term, can happen for 3 years, 5 years. And then there's the long term. I did have a long term relationship with my wife, Suzanne. And if you read that, it's an interesting thing. It says, a long term does not mean that it's going to be harmonious and this and that. It actually, they could actually be at odds. Now, we weren't really at odds, but we did really help others. That's what it says in the manual for teachers, that they're there to help others who falter along the way. That's what it said. And with that, Lorri, I'm going to turn this mic back on. Oh, I bet you have a lot to say after my sharing. Go ahead.
Yes, I do have a lot to say because you had a lot to say. Boy, there was a lot in there. I take notes so I can refer back to it. Well, what you were saying about the long-term relationship can actually be conflictual, or but the whole purpose is to help others or to help yourself, which is of course helping others and growing. Those are really important relationships. And this one long-term relationship I had where the person, I could not get over him. I could not get over the breakup of our relationship for 26 years. It's pathetic. It's just so pathetic. And I look at that and I just go, oh my God, and have had so much guilt and self-loathing over the relationship history that I've had. And yet it's been the path. It's just been my path. Some people have relationship issues, others have health issues, others have family issues. Mine were love relationships. Others have job issues or issues with their creativity or whatever it is that you have. That's your path. And that's where your lessons will keep recurring, because trials are but lessons repeated once again, so we can make a better choice. So with this last person who broke up with me, initially I was relieved in one sense, like, I'm glad you broke up with me, because I think I was going to have to break up with you eventually, and you spared me that, because the relationship just wasn't expanding and growing. And yet I have this deep love and connection with him, which has only grown. Well, how can it grow? I mean, it is what it is. It's that oneness. And oneness, I suppose, can't grow, but it's my awareness of it has grown, I should say that, since he broke up with me. And when he and I first started going out, it was weird because I kept thinking, why am I attracted to this guy? I mean, he was nice looking, he was masculine. I thought maybe it was just looks, but he wasn't like the best looking guy in the world, but he was nice looking. But I kept going, what the heck? I don't understand why I am drawn to him. So I assumed it was negative. I assumed I must be a sick puppy, just being attracted once again to a guy who's unavailable. And because I knew that emotionally he was still not really available. And anyway, when I first started going out with him, I had a meditation where I got this download of oneness. And for me, it feels a lot like the Mary Magdalene, Jesus Christ type of oneness, the duo, the team that reflects oneness of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I know that, again, that's just the ego, and that's the illusion and stuff like that. But it's a symbol in the illusion of a high level of love and oneness. And it was very weird because that came in my meditation, and I went, whoa, with this guy? What? Really? Well, okay, fine. I guess for me, I didn't think the relationship would necessarily work out, but my feeling was, oh, I get to be this. I get to be the Christ. I get to love completely and fully, unconditionally, without expectations. And I did. And it was really different. I didn't go to my old patterns of judging him or judging what the relationship looked like. I just kind of went, this is the Mary Magdalene Jesus thing. And okay, fine. And I stayed in that. And then even when he broke up with me, I stayed in that. And it was really interesting. It was like, I don't need you to love me back for me to love you completely and unconditionally. And I stayed in that and stayed in that. And then I would get into all the ego stuff with me that I did not project onto him. You jerk, you're just not doing the work. Why did you abandon me? Blah, 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 blah. And as I looked at the ego stuff that came up for me, the beliefs in loss and lack and sacrifice and separation and all that, I was able to work through those and work through one of the major things in this lifetime that I've had to deal with is the belief in loss, the grief the grief that I've had my entire life, just one grief after another, that I was really defended against as a child. But then once I got into relationships, I would just project it all onto the relationship, and mostly being mad at the man, mad at him for not being with me. And so it was interesting because I couldn't play that game anymore with this person. But then for a little while, I got into, because I had to keep seeing him. It was really hard because I had to keep seeing him at my Course in Miracles meetings and church. And he would hang around me. Here he broke up with me, but he kept hanging around me. And he was doing things that were like attraction types of things. And it was really weird. And so I kept thinking, well, maybe he's going to get it. Maybe he's going to come back around. And for a while, I got into that old pattern of, oh, if he'll just do his work and he'll change his mind and see the mistake that he made and how he's pushing away love, then we'll get back together. So I started focusing on him again instead of focusing on myself. And then I realized I'm focusing on him. Wait, stop. Get back to being the oneness. Get back to being the Mary Magdalene who loves Jesus completely unconditionally and supports him in whatever he needs to do, and just be there. Well, what was really weird was I said, oh, that's what I'm not doing. I'm seeing him as a person who's flawed, who needs to work on himself. Stop. Get back to who you really are and know the truth of the being, because it has nothing to do with your personalities. It has nothing to do with your bodies. You do not need to be together to have the truth of your being be expressed in this feeling of unconditional love. So this was very interesting. So I sat there and I meditated on that and carried that light into church and just, well, this is crazy. I'm in church and I do the coffee setup. I'm in the kitchen making coffee. And this is 3 months after he broke up with me. He comes up behind me while I'm making coffee and hugs me from behind like a lover, right? And I'm like, holy smoly, he got the message. He got the message. He felt the vibes. He just joined with me right there. And it flipped me out. Well, then he left again. He did his usual thing of hanging around me and then leaves. And so later in the week, I had to say, what's going on? And I talked to him. And I said, it seems to me like your soul is saying you want love, but your body, your ego's running away from it. And he's like, I'm not over my ex-wife. I can't be with you and blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, okay, but you can choose again. No, I can't. I can't do it. I can't. If I could just get over her, I would. And I'm like, well, okay. And it was like we broke up all over again because I talked to him, and I hadn't talked to him when we broke up because I didn't want to deal with the ego crap. And I knew that he was breaking up out of running away. What's the point? What's the point of talking about your ego reasons or what you don't like about me or what you don't like about the relationship when it's pretty obvious you're just running from love? But what happened with that is I had to go through this huge, intense, like for a week. It was like the grief all over again at a max level. I had to go through it. Trials are but lessons repeated once again so that I could go through it and not run from the grief. And then I woke up after a week of this and I felt like this big weight had lifted off of me. And it's like, I think I'm getting over this. And that day, this is really interesting. 2 weeks earlier, someone from church had said, do you want to go see Joe Dispenza with me in September in Tennessee? And I'm like, nah. And I'm thinking, Joe's just all about manifesting the car and the house and the money and the relationship. No, I don't want, no. I know that this world holds nothing that I want. No, I don't want to go. Well, that morning that I woke up where this big chunk of old stuff had lifted off of me, I had gotten an email from someone from my interfaith center, a mass email saying, there's this nice program with Joe Dispenza on it on Gaia. It's available for 5 days. So I thought, I'm just going to listen to it. Well, it wasn't anything I hadn't heard before from Joe Dispenza because he pretty much repeats his same pattern. But it was like, oh my goodness, I think I'm supposed to go to this meeting in September, this week-long retreat. And then I bought his initial package or whatever, and I've been doing the meditations now for 2 weeks. And that's when I realized this morning, oops, you're getting into ego doing, you're trying to get an outcome, stop, but still going with the ideas of a beautiful relationship and a more cash flow and all that, they just keep coming back to me. No matter what I do, no matter how many times I try to push them away, like I don't need anything in this world, the ideas of health, the ideas of love, the ideas of abundance and free flow are still there. And it's like, well, okay, then I'm going to align with those. I'm just going to line up with them and go for it and feel good about it. And it wasn't until this big, huge chunk of grief, this stuck stuff that I had in this lifelong pattern of, I need, I always would dream about the man, always dream about the beautiful relationship. And even after the course, knowing that's not what makes me happy, but I still want a holy relationship, is like, I can have a holy relationship with this man because I stay in my Christ self. I stay in my Mary Magdalene self that loves him completely and unconditionally. And I feel that it doesn't matter what his body does. It doesn't matter if he ever says hi to me again or if he acts like a jerk. I can stay there, and I'm choosing to stay there. And that's being my true self. Whether I ever have another relationship again is irrelevant. Whether I ever talk to him again is irrelevant because it's me staying in my place of love and expansion. And with that comes, free flow of abundance, free flow of love, free flow of life here. And I feel like I have a new lease on life because I was feeling like, once my grandkids get in school, it's like, why the hell am I here? Because I've been feeling like I'm here to help my daughter. But I was feeling like, nah, this life holds really nothing for me. I've been ready to check out for 40 years, but that's the ego voice too, because obviously I'm not, or I would have. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer to what you were talking about, Dove, because I've always felt like I was supposed to write a relationship book. Always. It's been there for years, and I've started and stopped it and started and stopped it. And every time I've started and stopped, I realized that the next time it would be like a totally different book. And even now it's totally different because I've changed from this relationship shift. Okay, so that's it. I'm turning it back over to you finally.
Okay, wow. I think the first thing I want to ask you, are you complete now?
With talk, do I need to talk anymore? Yeah, I'm fine.
Did you leave anything out?
Did I leave anything out? No. Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, great. So you're complete. I want to welcome Regis. Hi, Regis. And if you want to jump in, you're welcome anytime.
Hi, Regis.
I was listening to you, and what came up for me is that one of the most famous paragraphs in the course, at least to me, in chapter 12, I think it is. It says, analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you, and it kind of was like a tennis match. I mean, it was like he slammed the ball and I hit it back, and kind of like a cat and mouse game where the cat kind of plays with the mouse a little, and it's just like one of those things where you're going back and forth, and I was looking at the exact same thing that I just posted earlier. This course will be believed entirely or not at all, for it's either wholly true or wholly false. And if we start giving meaning to things, it kind of reminds me of lessons 1 and lesson 2. I mean, none of it really means anything. I mean, I usually say that's the whole course, but just in case you think you need something else, he says, well, I'll give you lesson 2 also. Lesson 2, if it means something, I'm the one who's given it all the meaning it has for me. So you're really playing tennis with yourself. You're playing ping pong with yourself. You are your own cat and mouse game. It's just, it's the hamster in the hamster wheel. And all of that really comes from analyzing. The course is very clear. Ego analyzes, spirit accepts. So acceptance is everything is perfect exactly the way it is. That's pretty much like today's lesson. Ken Wapnick's lesson, commentary on today's lesson on oneself united with my creator has nothing to do with being oneself united with your creator. His whole commentary is about doing the lessons imperfectly and not judging yourself and accepting forgiving yourself, accepting that you're not perfect is perfect. That's why you gotta laugh. You just gotta laugh at this stuff. It doesn't really mean anything. The moment you give meaning to it, you're right back into the thought system. It gives meaning to the things of this world and takes it seriously. To take anything in this world seriously, as of course, as Jesus says, you're not in your right mind. In your right mind, you're the same as Holy Spirit looks and sees, smiles, gently smiles, and says it's nothing. It's zero. It's zero. It's nothing. There's nothing to talk about. You got to laugh. You got to laugh. Of course, I usually got to laugh a lot more than I actually laugh. So I guess I still take things seriously. Uh, you got to laugh at that one, Dove. You're always saying you got to laugh, but you still take things seriously. Yeah. So I guess the things you take seriously is you haven't really developed total trust yet. He tells you trust would settle every problem out. Chapter 26, section 8, paragraph 2. So if you had no problems, you'd be laughing, you'd be smiling, you'd be enjoying, you'd be enjoy the love of God instead of the pain. And that's exactly what it says under trust. The people who are teachers of God, advanced teachers of God, at least, as I just put up in the chat, have trust in the world. Really? Trust in the ego's world? Yes, because they have learned it's not governed by the laws of chaos that the ego made up. It's governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. It's this power that keeps all things safe. It's through this power that the teachers of God look on a forgiven world, and that comes from Teacher's Manual, first of the 10 characteristics of God's teachers, section 4. And trust is the one thing you cannot learn in the Course in Miracles. You can. The course is complete in itself, but it can't teach you trust. Trust only comes from doing the same thing over and over again until you finally realize you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you start laughing at yourself, and you realize that none of it really means anything. And you go into it doesn't mean anything to accepting all exactly the way it is. So trust is really saying, what can you not accept? What can you not accept if you but knew that everything that seems to happen, all events, yeah, what he said, I said, he said, that they said, all events, past, present, and even to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. That's pretty much why you got to laugh. I'm worried. I'm thinking he says this, I said that here. none of that really means anything. Lesson number one. We used to have a guy here. I can't think of his first name, but I know that Lynn can probably. His name was Mr. Nisma. And the N stands for nothing. The I stands for in. The S stands for what nothing in this world means anything. Yeah, Mr. Nisma. So he took the lesson and created his name, Nisma. Nothing I see means anything. Nothing. Yes, thank you, Lynn. Of course, Lynn's so wonderful. Carl Nethercutt. Carl Nethercutt. He called himself Mr. Nisma. Yeah, he was really a great guy. I met him personally at one of the Regina's retreats. Okay, over to you, Lorri.
Thanks, Doug. That's cute. Nisma, I like that. That paragraph that you were talking about is one of the ones I used consistently in the last couple months to remind myself of truth. So I'm going to read it from chapter 12, section 1. Understand that you do not respond to anything directly, but to your interpretation of it. Your interpretation thus becomes the justification for the response. That is why analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. If you decide that someone is really trying to attack you or desert you or enslave you, you will respond as if he had actually done so, having made his error real to you. To interpret error is to give it power, and having done this, you will overlook truth. The analysis of ego motivation is very complicated, very obscuring, and never without your own ego involvement. So I was using that all the time, recognizing that, one, this is a dream. Two, what I think as myself is a figure in the dream. What I think of as that other person is a figure in that dream. And if I think that other person can desert me, abandon me, break up with me for no good reason or whatever, then I'm making the dream real. I'm not recognizing that it's my own projection and it's what I want. And what was very interesting about the progression of thinking and the ability to remain as God created me, remain with Christ's vision, was that initially my thought was, oh yeah, he's breaking up with me because I'm supposed to be with someone who's better for me. Well, it came to the place where that was even a stupid thought. It's like, there's no one better for me. But then the ego would jump in there and say, but he's the best for me. And we need to make this work. We need to work this out. And I need to just be patient with him and recognize that he's going to come around, because when I fall in love with someone, I want it to last forever, which is also a stupid ego thought because it's not true. And I got to the place where every ego thought was not true. And initially, I was staying in the Christ self, Christ vision, and I realized right away that him saying he wanted to break up with me or him saying he wanted to marry me were equal illusions, and they meant nothing. And so it's almost like sometimes when things happen, as I'm in this period of shock or something, or I'm stunned and I can't think. Well, in that not thinking, I'm actually in the Christ self, because I'm okay. My friends were amazed. Like for the first week, I was okay. I'm like, this is good. This is fine. I get that he's doing only what I would ask him to do. They're acting out for you. And then after that period, the initial period is like, oh, then all the ego stuff comes rushing in of, wait a minute, da, da, da. And all the ego projections came back. And then I would struggle with them. But in looking at all my beliefs in loss, belief that if you lose a body, you've lost something, belief in limitation, like, well, I should have a better relationship than this one. That's not even true. Anyway, they all fell away. All of those things. So the nisma, nothing I see means anything. I got to that place, but not just sticking with the ego of, well, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll never have another relationship again. This was better than no relationship at all, because I was really, really content. I really was. And I just stayed in this place of peace. And it was the first relationship I'd ever had where I didn't judge and judge and judge, and I was peaceful, and it was really nice. So damn it, why did it go away? Well, now I'm in this place of peace when I know who I am and what I am and stay with Christ's vision and feel this love and this oneness that I am. And I'm back there. I'm back to where I never left, right? Back to being home. And what do we want from a relationship but to feel love and to feel joy and to give and receive and think that by giving and receiving, you're actually giving and receiving love, which you are. But what is the main point is to be yourself. And that's where I've gotten to, that I love him. I love him. It has nothing to do with the body. And of course, because I love everyone. I am the love. And so I've got the feeling that I would want if he wanted me, right? What the ego used to say, well, if he approves of you and he selects you, he chooses you, makes you special, then you're going to feel this feeling of contentment and peace. It's like, no, he doesn't have to do any of that. It's me. And so what do we want when we want more money? We want to feel safe. Well, get into your true self. I am in need of nothing but the truth. And knowing that as long as the body appears to be here in the dream, all your needs are met. We are told that several times in the course, that we don't have to worry about anything. We want that feeling of safety and contentment. What do we want when we want health? Well, we want to feel good. We want to feel alive. We want to feel expansive. We want to feel energy. Well, guess what? Get into the truth of your being. And when your focus is not on the body, that's how you feel. You feel alive. And that's one of the things I like about Joe Dispenza's work is he actually gets into this place of you cannot create and be creative and be alive and be who you are in the separate self. You have to get to being no place, nowhere, no body, no thing. And that's when all the power of the universe is available to you. That's when lesson 95, our today lesson, is I am united with my creator and all living things, limitless in power and in peace. But then the ego's going to get in there and say, you have to collect all these things, you have to collect all these experiences, and then you'll be happy. No, you are it already. And then it shows up in your dream as a reflection of your consciousness. So it's not the other way around. The ego always wants to put the cart before the horse. And there's a line in the course that says, seek first the kingdom of God and all things will be added unto you. And I used to say that as a mantra all the time. But what I was doing back then was I was still attached to the things. And what had happened with this going through this relationship seeming loss, was so much of the ego stuff around the relationship fell off, and it was like this guilt attached to it fell off. And then now it's like, well, why not have more money? Why not have another relationship that's beautiful? Why not? I know it's not what I really want. But before, I had felt so guilty when I thought I wanted something else, because there was a part of me that thought that that would make me happy, even though intellectually I knew it wouldn't. So that's where I'm at now, where it's a totally different place than when I was doing the Joe Dispenza work. I started looking at his stuff back in 2007. So that's almost 20 years ago, 17 years ago. And I would do it and then give up. Do it and do it, give up. And that's with the law of attraction and all that. Visit it, revisit it, give up. And it was that thing where I think it's lesson 168, it says, if you but knew the meaning of his love, hope and despair would be handled, because all despair would be unthinkable and every hope would be satisfied. And that cycle of hope and despair, we try and we try and we try, then we give up. This will never work. And that's what I love about tomorrow's lesson, lesson 96. It says you will continue to seek an endless list of goals. And when one is satisfied, you go for the next goal. And until you realize that none of them is going to satisfy you, because nothing in the world will satisfy you, you'll just keep going round and round and round. And I had an epiphany with lesson 96 a long time ago when I realized, because I had wondered why I've been through so much therapy. How come I still have more therapy to go? How come I'm still working on stuff? Well, that's it. Because you're coming from the ego place. And when you're coming from the ego place of lack, there's just always going to be more lack. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Dove.
Wow. Wow. You sound just like the Lorri Coburn that used to teach you for a whole hour and had like 20 people in the room and everybody was talking to you and all that. Because you just go on and on and on. That's great, in a way, your new format, which is to join Sharon and me, kind of, punctuates or kind of shortens your ability to just let it all out. So listening to you now kind of reminds me of those wonderful days where everybody said, when is Lorri going to be on? Lorri's not here today. Why not?
Oh, see, Dove, Regis has his hand up.
Oh, Regis, I'm sorry. Go ahead, go.
Thank you, Lorri and Dove. And Lorri does sound great. And it's interesting, Lorri, that I noticed a shift right here in this session with you and Dove. When we started, your terminology was more, this is not real, that's not real, blah, blah, blah. And then when Dove brought up Nisma, nothing I see means anything. Uh, Everything went to another level because you really grabbed that. And I think what our ego thought system does a lot is like to hook on to the semantics of this is not real, that's not real. And we do struggle with that idea, but I think the course was always saying not that it's, and even Ken Wapnick said in so many ways, is not denying whatever the situation or the topic is, but it is the meaning that we've given it. And so sometimes our ego hooks on to it's not real, and we can't fully accept that. But a little bit softer is nothing I see means anything because it's not that the money so much is not real, but what does it mean to you? Does it mean if you don't have it, you're going to be homeless? No, it doesn't mean that. Does it mean that you're going to get sick and not have money to pay the doctor? It doesn't mean that. That's the meaning we're giving it. And what does it mean if I have a lot of it? Does it mean I'm going to feel safe? Not necessarily. I could worry myself to death about losing it. So, so the safety and the threat that having or not having presents, none of that meaning is all that is meaning that I'm giving it. And so it's the same with relationship. Uh, what does it mean if I'm in a love relationship? What does it mean if I'm not in one? So the pursuit, a non-pursuit of a relationship uh, is only the meaning I give it. It's not a right or wrong. It's not a should or shouldn't. It's just, am I putting false hope and putting false identity into the having of it? Uh, it's it's no more than I want pizza for dinner versus hot wings. It's like um, when it comes to food, I can switch on a dime. If the restaurant is packed, I would be like, oh, let's go somewhere else. It doesn't matter what I was thinking I wanted to eat before I got there. If it's a 45-minute wait, oh, well, we can go across the street and we can get in immediately. Let's go eat what they have. And it's just, it's really just uh, the meaning. My wife and I, we talk about death and grief, and we are learning, and she's learning even more that it's just the meaning we're giving them. We start seeing, oh, we can say, oh, well, Jane died on Christmas. Christmas will never be the same. Well, that's the meaning I'm giving it. Now I'm telling myself I'll grieve every Christmas because Jane died on Christmas. So, but I don't have to do that. That's a choice. That's a meaning that I'm giving it, that I'm giving the that that moment, that experience of someone leaving the body, and now I'm telling myself, oh, on this day I'll always feel sad. Oh, on this day it'll never be the same. So it's just nothing I see means anything or has to mean what I'm giving it the meaning. I'm giving it the meaning. And so I think that's a lot softer. That's a lot more gentle healing than when we just always attaching to it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. This not real. That's not real. But what really Helen was learning that all the things that stressed her out and that made her miserable, miserably unhappy, even when the course told her you first got to realize you're miserable before you could even be on the journey to happiness or even desire happiness, you got to first realize what you're doing is miserable. So it's that recognition that nothing I see means what I'm saying it means. The meaning can change when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And the meaning can always change to something that's less toxic, less aggressive, less hurtful and painful. We have the choice. And as we talk about death, my wife, I had started pointing to her like, yeah, in New Orleans, we march down the street with trombones and trumpets, and we have a party. However, over in this area of the country, we sit around and we cry and we weep and we have all this low level sadness about somebody leaving us. And it's all the meaning that we're giving it. So it's really very clear when you look at just because I give something meaning doesn't make it true. Because if it was the truth, then everybody everywhere would have the same reaction. And we know that that's not true. so so that gives us a little space to loosen our grip on the meaning that we've given stuff and to know that, hey, it's just something that I'm doing. It's an inside job. So thanks, Dove, and thanks, Lori, for bringing that distinction up for me because I know it's a distinction right here, right now that I need to make between not real versus nothing I see meaning anything. It's a lot softer for me. Thanks.
Okay, Regis, thank you for that sharing, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your comment in the chat. Elizabeth says, it's the first time I've really heard you, Lori. So Lori gets to really spread her wings here in this twosome rather than the threesome. Talking about twosomes, Lori, I was thinking how you and I kind of have the same kind of life in that I was with Suzanne for half my life, and she certainly had a huge impression on me, and she was a great teacher. You also were with Rod for a very long time, and he was like your teacher as well. And now I find I'm alone, and alone is really great. You really get to learn about yourself. It's not me and someone else. It's I'm looking at myself. One of my great ways of looking at things. I have this on almost all my uh, uh, groups. As you get older, you will understand more and more. It's not about what you look like or what you own or none of that stuff. It's all about the person that you become. So you get to really learn about who you are, uh, where when you're in a relationship, there's a lot of back and forth, like the ping pong game, tennis game. But here you have some time to be alone. So I just put that out as something that probably you and I share together. If you choose to, of course, at this point in my life, I am choosing really to be alone. I'm choosing to be alone. Thank you so much, Lori. Lynn, thank you so much. Thanks all for being here. I see Gloria in the room. Thanks, everybody. I think it's now time for Zoma. I wanted to invite you, Lorri, to, you used to come Thursday nights to our Zoom group. Love to see you back in our Zoom group. Tonight we have a deep dive into, well, we're in the psychotherapy pamphlet. We completely finished the manual for teachers and went to psychotherapy. It's really a good topic, and I'm sure you'll love it. I see Zoom is ready to go. Thank you all. Love you all. Blessings.
Thank you. Thanks, Regis, too, for your comments. They really clarified things that I've heard you say for a long time, and I think I finally got it today. So over to you, Sulma.
Thank you so much, Dove and Lori, and everyone who's been here, Regis.